What a head, son! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to actually be bringing you guys the ELITE64 template team, or at least the highest owned players within these elite managers. Now I decided to switch it up from the usual top 10k, top 1k, because I thought you guys wanted maybe a little bit of a different template after seeing relatively the same teams over the last couple of videos. I please ask you to drop it in the comments down below if you do enjoy this video, or if you want me to go back to the top 10k, top 1k, what team or what template would you guys find more useful? But in this video, I'll be going over the ELITE64 team, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So you might be asking, what exactly is the ELITE64, but it is going to be a mini league that was created by FPL General. Now I actually managed to find this tweet from about 2018 over on Reddit, but here he basically states what the ELITE64 is, or at least the requirements to qualifying for this specific mini league. So the first way was if you DM'd him or emailed him and you had at least 2 top 10k finishes. You guys know how hard it is to get a top 10k finish. So if you guys did have 2 top 10k finishes, you qualified for this qualifier league that allowed you to get into the ELITE64. Now if memory serves me right, I think it was about 15 or 20 places from the qualifier league that would make it up to the ELITE64. But other than this qualifier league, I don't exactly know the criteria that FPL General used to actually make the original ELITE64 league. Now fortunately for me, I actually managed to qualify for this league, but actually through the FPL General's community league, which was called Beat the General. If you guys do remember, this season I finished 22nd in the world. I also did win that mini league, and therefore I was offered the one spot in the community league to upgrade myself to the ELITE64. Now this mini league does contain quite a few content creators, but also some of the best managers in the world. These managers have countless top 10k finishes, top 1k finishes for example, and I will leave the league link down in the description below so you guys can go check out these managers for yourself. So why I thought this video might be quite interesting is that when you do look at the top 10k, top 1k, you see relatively the same teams, because obviously the options that these managers do have been performing quite well, but the ELITE64 might give you a different perspective as these managers tend to be a little bit more analytical. But if you guys do have any more comments about the league, any questions, drop it in the comments down below and I'll be sure to get to you, as I'm pretty sure FPL General will be too busy to get to those concerns. So how I managed to actually make this template was I went over to Python, used the API, input the league code, and then I basically combined all the players into one and then did a count of their specific teams. I then went and selected the top 5 defenders, top 5 midfielders, top 3 attackers, and obviously top 2 goalkeepers to create a full starting 15. And when I also did the price points, the price value of this squad, or at least the price you can buy them at, is 105 million. So this team is actually buyable if you guys do have a bank of 105 million, and if you guys do want a wild card, you could maybe gravitate to this template. Now the bench order might be a little bit different in here just because I've gone for the top 5 options. So these might be bench options, they might be starting 11 players. I think just use your discretion as we go through the positions. But starting off in goal, we've got David De Gea with the lovely 70.3% ownership. I think this is due to the fact that Man United had a recent double game week and also have a nice double game week coming up. So I do think that this has made David De Gea a goalkeeper of choice, especially for the ELITE64. Ben Foster, like most of us, is the second goalkeeper of choice, just below that 50% mark, comes in quite cheap, and I do think he'll be nailed under the new Watford manager. Moving on to the defense, what I have done is I've gone from left to right, most owned to least owned, and then obviously there will be some players underneath there. And if you guys do want to ask me about maybe the 6th most owned player, drop it in the comments down below and I'll just read it from my Python script. But at a whopping 100% owned, yes, owned by every single one of the ELITE64, it's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I can honestly not disagree with that. Trent this season has been absolute value for money, even though he comes in so expensive or has risen in price so much. And I do think with this upcoming double that Liverpool do have against Norwich and also Leeds, I think that Trent could be a differential captain if you guys want to be brave. We then have Cancelo's just owned by less than 100%, which is quite surprising to me, as for me he's a no-brainer player, plays every game for Man City, attacking and defensive threat. I think it is a great asset to own, but obviously about 1.6% of the ELITE64 don't necessarily agree with me. Livramento comes in as a cheap option. I'm pretty sure most of these managers would have had him since the start of this season, and they would be quite happy to know, or at least 78% would be happy to know, that Livramento was spotted in training and therefore should be fine for the upcoming Southampton fixtures. We then move on to a player that will 100% be transferred out by the majority of managers, and that's going to be Marcos Alonso, that comes in with just below 44% ownership. The reason I'm stating that Alonso will be transferred out is just because Chelsea have so many blanks coming up with the Club World Cup and then also the Carabao Cup final. I do think Alonso has been a little bit of a disappointment, especially if these managers bought him at the later stages of this season, as I've become a little bit accustomed to getting those 0 or 1 pointers from Alonso. And the final defender to go for, I think this is due to those West Ham fixtures. It's going to be Dawson with 25% ownership, also because of the recent double game week that West Ham did have. Congratulations if you guys had captain Bowen. I might be a little bit salty if you guys captain Antonio, but Dawson might have not been the best pick considering the fact that he didn't score a bullet header like most managers were expecting. So overall, pretty nice defense. I do think there's some changes on the horizon. Alonso out, maybe someone like a Laporte in if they want to be conservative, or Cucurella, or maybe even a United defender, or maybe even Robertson with that upcoming Liverpool double. We then move on to the midfield department, and another 100%er here, ding ding ding, 2 from the Liverpool squad. It's going to be Diego Jotta from that Liverpool attack. Perfectly understandable here. Jotta's had some good stats recently, especially with Sadio Mane and Mo Salah out. Definitely the most nailed option to go for from a Liverpool attacking point of view, and that's why I do understand that he's owned by 100% of these teams. It will be quite interesting to see what the Elite64 do with him though. With Luis Diaz signing, I think there might be some rotation in that forward line. Jared Bowen, a player that stood out in that double game week for West Ham, just owned by less than 100% of managers, which does show you how quickly the template might change, as a couple of game weeks ago, I don't think many managers own Jared Bowen. Damari Gray is definitely a surprise for me. 42.2% of managers in the Elite64 own an Everton midfielder. Super surprising to me, but I did own DCL at least 1 game week ago, so I can't be tooting too much about this, and I do think Gray's cheap enough to just have him on the bench. Phil Foden is the Man City option of choice from the Elite64. I do think that's because he's cheaper than a Kevin De Bruyne, a little bit more reachable in that price point, and I do think if he manages to still start in that centre forward position, could be an absolute steal at that price. Coming in with exactly the same ownership, 39.1%, is going to be Bruno Fernandes, and I do think if they managed to captain him last game week, the Elite64 would have been quite happy, or at least 40% of managers. I do think these managers will keep a Bruno Fernandes, a Ronaldo, these sort of options with that upcoming double, and it will be interesting to see if they actually captain him or go straight to Mo Salah. And then finally in our forward line, we've got the 2 Watford assets. I do think this is because they kind of split ownership. So either one of the managers owned a King or maybe a Dennis, or there are some managers that actually own both of them like myself. So Josh King is the definite favorite of the Elite64, a little bit more analytical as I mentioned these managers, not like myself kind of going for both of them and captaining Dennis. I'm pretty sure most of them went for the King captain, and that would have been the better choice in Game Week 23. But 82.8% is really high in terms of ownership, and I do think this was purely because of the Watford double, and that'll also include that Dennis ownership. So Dennis trailing slightly behind at about 69% ownership. I'm sure those managers that did own him, if they captain him, would have been really happy with that -1 return, -2 if they captain him. And I do think it'll be a popular transfer out, especially with that Brighton double with Mapai. Then maybe if Southampton get a new double with Broja. But the final player to talk about, what a player to talk about, it's going to be CR7, Cristiano Ronaldo, with the 50% ownership. Now, it actually would have been interesting to see if these managers own both Bruno and Ronaldo, or if they own kind of one of them. I think it might be the latter. I think they either own Bruno or they own Ronaldo, and that's why the ownership is under 100% if you combine it. But it would be quite interesting to see which managers went for who. I think this is a super interesting kind of debate to go for with Mo Salah returning after AFCON. If they're going to drop Ronaldo, if they're going to keep him, will they captain him? I think I might be more confident in captaining Bruno over Ronaldo just because he looks to be in better form recently. But what I always like to do with these templates is look at your own squad, look at the Elite64 template and see how many players you own from this team, and therefore it might be a little bit of a nice comparison to see how you stack up against these managers. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you believe that you should be in the Elite64. Do you think that you're better than some of these managers? And what's your overall ranking this season? But this basically wraps up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to comment if you did, or if you prefer top 10k, top 1k. I'll be sure to read the comments and then adjust next game week's template accordingly. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep those notifications on. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.